Welcome to the Haunt Vault, where the darkest stories are unearthed, and tonight we're unlocking the tale of Last Choice. In the quiet town of Ashford, the heart of the community is a century-old library, a place where stories come to life and sometimes refuse to stay on the page. For Lisa, Mark, Emily, and Sarah, a secret note sets the stage for a terrifying choice, a decision that would seal their fate. The curse is still out there, waiting to be found. Tonight the question falls to you: what would you choose? Beware, because once you hear this tale, you might have to make the last choice yourself.
The town of Ashford was small and unassuming, nestled in a quiet valley surrounded by thick woods. It was the kind of place where everyone knew each other, and life moved at a comfortable, unhurried pace. The most prominent building in the town was the library, a grand old structure that had stood for over a century. Its towering windows and ivy-covered walls gave it an air of mystery, as if it held secrets within its walls that only the most curious might uncover. The library was a sanctuary for many of Ashford's residents. It offered a quiet escape from the world outside, a place where stories of distant lands and forgotten times could be discovered. Children came to hear tales of adventure, and the elderly to relive memories through the books of their youth. But amid the rows of shelves and the scent of aging paper, something sinister lingered, a tale that no one should read. Lisa Thompson was a busy woman, always on the go. A local teacher who enjoyed thrillers. She loved stories that kept her up late into the night. One Saturday afternoon, she visited the library to pick up a new novel she'd been eager to read. As she browsed the shelves, she noticed an old, worn book she hadn't seen before. It was a collection of short stories. Curiosity got the better of her, and she checked it out. When Lisa got home, she made herself a cup of coffee, sat in her favorite chair, and opened the book. As she flipped through the pages, a loose sheet of paper fell out, landing on her lap. She picked it up, frowning at the single sentence written at the top.
"Those who find this tale will face a choice."
Lisa chuckled to herself, thinking it was just some silly prank. She read the story, expecting to be unimpressed. And indeed, when she finished, she scoffed.
"That was it? What a waste of time,"
she muttered, tossing the paper aside. The next morning, Lisa was found dead in her classroom. She had suffered a sudden aneurysm, a fatal rupture that doctors said was extremely rare. The story had vanished from her home. Mark Anderson was a mechanic with a passion for horror movies and extreme sports. On his day off, he headed to the library to pick up a book on urban legends. He loved the thrill of reading about haunted places and cursed objects, stories that blurred the line between fiction and reality. As he scanned the shelves, a thin volume caught his eye. It was old and worn, with no title on the spine. Intrigued, he pulled it out and took it to the checkout desk. When he got home, Mark cracked open a beer, settled into his recliner, and began to read. But before he could get far, a piece of paper fell out of the book. He picked it up and read the first line.
"Those who find this tale will face a choice."
Mark grinned.
"Let's see what you've got,"
he said aloud, reading the story with growing excitement. But as he finished, he felt a pang of disappointment.
"That wasn't scary at all,"
he thought.
"I've read scarier stuff in my sleep."
2 days later, Mark was at an amusement park with friends. They decided to ride the biggest, fastest roller coaster in the park. As the ride climbed higher, Mark suddenly felt a strange pressure in his chest. When the coaster plunged, his heart stopped. The autopsy revealed a heart attack, though Mark had been in perfect health. The paper with the story was never found. Emily Rogers was a college student with a sharp sense of humor. She loved playing pranks on her friends and found humor in the most unexpected places. One day, she visited the library to pick up a comedy book to lighten her mood during finals week. As she wandered through the aisles, she stumbled upon a book that looked like it belonged in a horror section rather than comedy. Curious, she opened it to see what was inside. Almost immediately, a loose sheet of paper fluttered out. She picked it up and read.
Those who find this tale will face a choice.
Emily laughed out loud.
This is going to be hilarious,
she thought, expecting the story to be some over-the-top attempt at scaring readers. She read it quickly and finished with a grin.
That's so ridiculous,
she said to herself.
Who writes this stuff?
2 days later, Emily went to the dentist for a routine cleaning. As she was given nitrous oxide to relax, she suddenly began gasping for breath. The dentist tried to save her, but within minutes, she was gone, victim to what appeared to be an unusual allergic reaction to the gas. The mysterious paper was nowhere to be found. Sarah Collins was a journalist, known for her sharp wit and her disdain for anything that smacked of the supernatural. She prided herself on being a rational, logical person, always ready to debunk myths and expose the truth. One afternoon, she visited the library to do some research for an article on local folklore. As she sifted through the dusty volumes, she found an old book that looked promising. It was a collection of stories about haunted places in the region. She checked it out, eager to dive into her research. Later that evening, Sarah sat down at her desk, opened the book, and began reading. But before she could get far, a single sheet of paper slipped out from between the pages. She picked it up and saw the words,
"Those who find this tale will face a choice."
Sarah rolled her eyes.
How dramatic,
she thought, reading the story quickly, expecting it to be just another exaggerated ghost tale. When she finished, she snorted in derision.
People actually believe this stuff?
The next day, Sarah was at her office when she suddenly collapsed. Her colleagues rushed to help, but it was too late. She had died of a severe allergic reaction, though she had no known allergies. The mysterious paper was nowhere to be found. David Miller was a devoted father, always looking for new books to read to his young son, Jack, at bedtime. He loved the quiet moments they shared, with Jack snuggled up beside him, listening intently to the stories. One evening, David went to the library to find a new book of fairy tales. As he browsed the children's section, an old leather-bound book caught his eye. It was a collection of classic tales, the kind he knew Jack would love. He checked it out and headed home. That night, after tucking Jack into bed, David sat down on the porch, the cool evening breeze rustling the leaves around him. He rocked gently in his chair, enjoying the peaceful night. As he opened the book, a loose sheet of paper slipped out and landed on the table beside him. He glanced at it, seeing the words,
"Those who find this tale will face a choice."
David was about to read further, when Jack suddenly burst through the door, breathless and excited.
"Dad, the dog got out."
David stood up quickly, the paper forgotten as it fluttered off the table. He followed Jack into the yard, calling for the dog as they searched the neighborhood. Meanwhile, the wind picked up, catching the loose sheet of paper and carrying it away, out of sight. The wind carried the cursed paper through the town, eventually dropping it onto a busy sidewalk. There it lay, trampled by feet, unnoticed by most. But the story it held was still intact, waiting for its next reader. The story was simple, almost mundane in its brevity. Those who find this tale will face a choice. A traveler found themselves at a crossroads, with 3 paths before them. The first path led into a dense forest, dark and foreboding, with the sound of unknown creatures lurking in the shadows. The second path wound through a peaceful meadow, filled with wildflowers and the soft hum of bees. The third path stretched out towards a distant mountain, its peak lost in the clouds. The traveler hesitated, unsure which path to take, until a voice whispered in their ear, "Choose wisely, for your choice will define your fate." The story ended there, leaving its meaning open to interpretation, but its power lay not in the words themselves, but in the thoughts it provoked in those who read it. Each reader's reaction sealed their fate, their thoughts shaping the curse that would follow them. And now, as you've heard this tale, the question lingers, what do you think about it?
And so the tale of last choice comes to an end. Or does it? The choice is still out there waiting to be made. Now that you've heard the story, what will you do? Let us know in the comments below, because your decision might be more important than you think. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Haunt Vault for more chilling stories, and share this video with someone brave enough to make the last choice. Until next time, keep your eyes open, because not all stories stay in the pages.